Good morning. It is May 10th, 2024. We've had some rain, we've had some warmer temperatures, and it looks like all of the problems are also starting to wake up. Online today, we got Todd Hicks, we got Dr. Dave Gardner, we got Dr. Tyler Carr, who's on site at Huntington Park. We got Dr. Dave Shetlar and Dr. Xiaowei Wu. Dr. Carr, take it away.
Guys. So yeah, you're looking live at Huntington Park right behind us. We're downtown Columbus here with Chris Mason. Can feel like Chris Collinsworth slide in. So Chris started here with the Clippers at Huntington Park in October last year. So kind of reflecting on the last couple months.
Last couple months has just been trying to tweak this place to our liking. It was left in pretty great shape from the last guy that was here. Just making some design changes and some of the things that we think would be a little more functional for how we operate. We started in the fall with going through core aerification, standard putting it to bed practice. Did about a 250-pound overseed bluegrass in this place. And we've just been rolling since day one.
Yeah.
So,
well, this spring has been today is not a good indication. Spring's been like up and down temperatures. It's been wet. What have you done to combat that? What do you recommend that sportsman managers do to kind of deal with the fluctuations that we've had?
A lot of it has just been getting things done when you can. Between having play, we've been having, as you know, very, very heavy downpours. So trying to keep this place as dry as we can. After the first rainfall that we had this past week, we went through and did a solid tine aerification just to help with perk rate on water. We're starting to throw some penetrants in our sprays just to help keep things moving, going through in top dressing areas that are becoming a little bit lower and compacted with the amount of water. And we had to play through 2 games of rain last homestand with Toledo here. And, as you can kind of see on the infield now, we've still got some from last night's rainfall. It's just moving towards the next homestand and trying to keep things going, keep things growing.
So speaking of the next homestand, the team's been away from here for a little while. Next homestand starts on Tuesday. So how long is the homestand? What are you doing in the next couple of days to bring up to that?
So we typically start on Tuesdays and on Sundays. So we've got about 6 games coming up here. We're going through, and we've actually had to go through and strip a bunch of conditioner off our clay areas from the rain games. Like I said, we did a solid tine aerification. I've got some fertility that needs to go down just to keep things growing. With fluctuations in temperatures and things like that, the grass hasn't really seemed to know what it wants to do. So I'm trying to dictate between the heat, the cold, everything else of keeping it green and growing and safe for the players.
Well, we're appreciative that you have us out here today and just to take a walk with you and check on everything. But we'll go back to you guys and we'll continue our tour.
Thank you, Dr. Carr. Thank you, Chris. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Dr. Gardner.
All right. Just a second. Having trouble finding the button that says share screen. Oh, here we go. Goodness, it's one of those kind of days. You said you don't edit this thing either. That's too bad. That's unfortunate. Hey, whatever. All right. So here we are on the 10th of May. And just as a reminder, it is too late to put out a pre-emergence herbicide. But if you have areas where you had a lot of crabgrass pressure last year and you don't want to resort just to use of post-emergence herbicides, there are a couple of options still because they are both pre and post-emergence. You can put down tenacity, which is mesotrione, or dimension, or the herbicide crew, which is a combination of dithiopyr and isoxaben. There's also a product called Echelon, which is prodiamine and sulfentrazone. Any of these have activity on crabgrass so long as it's no larger than about 2 to 3 leaf stage, which is usually the month of May, but then you'll also have that pre-emergence barrier that will be effective as well. So again, some options to consider if you were too late on your pre-emergence herbicide. Now, the most popular question that I've gotten via email this week has been, what is this grass? And people will send me images in an attempt to identify them. One request, if you do send images, I'm more than happy to look at them. Make sure that they're in focus. It's difficult for me to tell what's going on if the grass is not in focus, which I know sometimes on a phone, it can look like it's good, but then when you look at it on a computer, it's like, nope, there's just not enough information there. That said, it's sometimes important to figure out what kind of grass is bothering you because you have to know whether it's an annual or a perennial, and then whether or not it can be controlled with a selective herbicide or if you have to resort to the use of non-selective herbicides. So some things that you don't want to have, for example, include quackgrass with its long clasping auricle because that is a perennial weed and there are no selective herbicides to control it. Or orchard grass, which has a tall membranous ligule that is also a perennial, and we don't have any selective herbicides for that. Rough bluegrass is another one that can be very difficult to control. You have to use non-selective herbicides, but one thing to point out, you can send me images, or if you send plants, normally, try the images first, and then if that doesn't work, I'll ask you to send me a plant sample to our OTF Research Center, and I can attempt to find it there. But if you have a picture of the seed head always has and will continue to be the easiest, most reliable way to speciate a grass. So if you have a picture of it in bloom, please send that. Also, a note of caution when it comes to using cell phone apps that are supposed to identify plants. Sometimes those have not been tweaked to the way that we would like for them to be. And so, for example, I had a gentleman that I'm trying to help figure out what this weedy patch is here, and his phone app said that it was reed canary grass, which grows to about 9 feet in height. And it's unlikely that that's that. Now, this could be creeping bent grass. It probably is, and that would be good news because we have selective herbicides to control that. And at this time of year, that's more likely what this is. Other grasses that form patches that look like this include Bermuda grass and nimblewill. And while there are a couple of options that are selective, they're not as reliable as taking out bent grass with mesotrione. Some other things that I'm seeing, this is starting to rear its ugly head, Veronica or Speedwell. This is a weed that maybe isn't as prevalent as dandelion and white clover, but when you have it, it can certainly be extremely difficult to control with the herbicides that we use in turf. That's a picture of it up close, but the Speedwells can be kind of difficult. I would say, generally speaking, with apologies, the more expensive the herbicide, the more likely it is you're going to be happy with the control. So those four-way products that include a Protox inhibitor. I'm also seeing a lot of the winter annuals, trying to bloom and finish up their life cycle as well. So here's an example of a chickweed plant. But for broadleaf weed control, remember, you have amine formulations and you have ester formulations. We're at that point where you should probably be switching to the amine. The esters work better in cooler weather. The amines are the ones that we use in warmer weather, mostly because of the volatility, right? We're worried that the esters are going to volatilize and cause non-target injury when the temperature is too warm. Now, there are some esters that are advertised to be effective up to 90 degrees. Anybody who came to our field day last year, I had this demonstration that had all of the latest and greatest of the combination products. And then I had those compared to a couple of, standards like just, a three-way amine formulation. Well, the three-way amine formulation was the big winner in that demonstration because I made the application on a day that it was sunny, light wind, and it was about 82 degrees. And so what happened is that the fancy ester-based herbicides volatilized off, like the plants were only wet for about 5 minutes after I sprayed. So there's not enough time to get the herbicide in. Okay. And so the amine formulation actually worked better. So my point is that, it's not just the potential for causing injury to non-target plants, but, sometimes the ester formulations, depending on the weather conditions, can actually be less effective if you're making those applications when it's too warm, particularly on a sunny day. All right. That's what I have for today.
Dave, one follow-up on that. If you were stuck in a situation where you are limited to maybe the new ester formulation combinations, would watering the plant ahead of time be one way to try and improve efficacy?
Possibly, yes, but I would say the timing during the day would be more important. I would try to make the application like, 6 to 9 a.m. rather than 1 to 4 p.m. for example, that would probably be the most, if you were going to use those types of herbicides at this time of the year, the timing of application is the more important. So, and when I worked commercially, I did most of my spraying in the middle of the night, and it was specifically for that reason. I used something called Riverdale Weed Destroy Triester. Wonderful product, doesn't exist anymore, but I mean, I made all those applications. First Light in Chicago, you used to live there, right? First Light's like 3:50 in the morning, so it's like you could start spraying then, and I would usually wrap up by 7 or 8 a.m. And yeah, it worked great. But then there was one time that they had me use that same product in the middle of the afternoon, and I did a lot of damage to the maples and not much damage to the weeds. So it is, the time of day is the more significant factor.
Maples and weeds.
Yeah,
I don't see the difference.
I'd like to point out on our Buckeye Environmental Horticulture Team meeting on Tuesday morning, one of the participants showed there was a residential HOA area that had been treated when we had those 80-degree days, and all of the ornamentals were just curled to beat the band. And I have a feeling there's going to be an ODA inspection of that site. So use some real caution with these warm temperatures that we have. Obviously today would be great because we're probably not going to get more than 60 degrees, but when you get in those close to 80 degrees, watch out on volatility of those products.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Shetlar. Dr. Shaway Woo, follow that up.
Good morning, everyone. Today I have a couple of past, well, not really past, a couple of insects to update. Let me share the screen. Okay. So the first one I would like to show is the picture here. So I received a request for a site visit, and initially I thought it's caterpillars because from the far side pictures they do look like caterpillars. But when we gather and take a picture and look at that, you will see that this is actually not a caterpillar. This is a sawfly. So caterpillars usually have 3 to 5 pairs of prod necks, or you can say thick necks. And here you can see there are, I think, 7 pairs of prod necks. So these are grass sawflies. They can be controlled with pyrethroids and also neonicotinoids. These grass sawflies, they like the fine fescue. You can see the needle shape like the grass blades. Another interesting thing was actually 2 days ago on Wednesday. This Wednesday, when we visited OSU golf course, we noticed there was a brood of a swarm of honeybees, and so apparently there was a storm the night before that. So that storm hit the branch down, and that probably hit the queen dropped to the ground, and so that's the swarm. Usually bee swarms occurs from March to May in the spring. That's when the population is large, so they need to divide for new colonies to move. So if you see this, do not spray, please do not. The swarm only lasts for a few hours, and usually no more than 24 hours. So in this case, this was noticed in the morning, and in the afternoon, when our pollinator specialists gather, they were mostly gone. So if you're really concerned about them, you may contact local beekeepers to remove them. And another thing is the updated annual bluegrass weevil. So in our samples this week, the average stage of the larvae reached a range of 3.1 to 3.4, so it's slightly more than 13 stars, and a few actually reached the 15 stars. So it's time for neat larvicide applications to prevent the damage occurring. Tetrinoferens, match point, Dinox, Prevent, and Spirato, those are all good options. And also there have been reports about the activity of billbug adults as well. So if you say large billbug adult activities, you may put out adulticides like pyrethroids to control the adults. And finally, I would like to mentioned that I'm looking for a chinchbug trial site. So if you have chinchbug damage in your home lawns in this summer, I appreciate you let me know. Here's my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. Following up on that, with another bout of pestilence update, Todd Hicks.
Thanks, Ed. Like everybody's alluded to, with this weather going up and down, things have really changed in the last 7 to 10 days. We've been dealing with leaf spot and red thread on high cut turf only so far. Red thread, not so much. Widespread seems to be in pockets, but leaf spot seems to be ubiquitous across the state on high cut, just high cut so far. The last 3-4 days, we've received reports from numerous golf courses and at the turf facility that we've got dollar spots showing up. So on the downside, that's not good. If you're seeing signs of dollar spot this early in the year, that means you've got gaps in your program, or in some cases, I'm hearing guys really stretching chemicals out there. This is not the time to do that, especially with these up and down temperatures playing with dollar spot. If you get behind now, you will be behind all year long, spraying your brains out, losing sleep, and not having a good year. So just prepare yourself, get back ahead of it with this cool down, get back on schedule. I realize mowing's been a pain. We're getting these on and off front rains and so forth, but make spring a priority right now. Get back ahead of your dollar spot. The other thing is that I'm really worried about is leaf spot transitioning to bent grass. We have both the cool and the wet, or excuse me, cool and warm season leaf spots. They change very fast over to one another depending on the conditions. We've got a lot of inoculant in your roughs and those off areas that we don't care about, that high cut stuff. It's just waiting to look for other places to feed. And those greens and teas will look real nice if they're not protected. So again, while we're in this cold period, I'd make sure I had something pretty strong on there for my leaf spot. The only other thing I'm seeing and getting calls on, with this weird weather pattern, we had some patch diseases showed up. A lot of patch diseases we normally think of showing up towards the end of May, beginning of June. Just not a lot of them, but just some weird stuff. But again, this cool season weather pattern that we seem to be back into at least for another 5 to 7 days, we'll put an end to that, and we'll hopefully get back to a regular season here. But be very wary of dollar spot and leaf spot right now. I think things are primed to make your season either a winner or a loser, depending on what you do here in the next 5 days. That's all I got.
That was enough, Todd, from your mansion in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've seen some red thread, nothing much further north yet, but I was kind of wondering with the moisture along with some of those temperatures would dollar spots start to fire up. But I'm sure it's coming.
I've talked to people up north and clear down the south, Ed, and it's everywhere it seems to be. So,
Dr. Shetlar, follow it up.
Well, that sort of follow up with that cultural part. One of my neighbors across the street caught me the other day, and he said, "Doc, Dave, I hear you do turf grass stuff, and my lawn just isn't as green as yours. Should I add more fertilizer?" And I'm looking at his lawn; it is thick as can be, and probably susceptible to all kinds of diseases because it's so thick. And I said, "Did you use a fertilizer with iron in it?" And he goes, "What?" And I said, well, I had used a fertilizer that had a 2% iron in it, and that you can actually just apply iron and really green up. You can. I remember when I was with Kimlawn, we turned lawns black. We in some of our experiments. So a little bit of iron can go a long way and not accelerate the growth that's happening with all of this rain. The other thing I want to mention, people are rooting around, they're digging around, they're renovating their gardens and things like that. And I'm seeing reports on social media all the time of, oh, I found some grubs in my flower bed. Should I treat the flower bed and the lawns for grubs? And I wanted to point out, we do have thresholds for these. And typically you need about 8 to 10 grubs per square foot. not 8 to 10 grubs in a 50 or 60 square foot area that you've dug up. So remember that it's really the number, and most of the grubs that I find when I'm digging around the garden, I just throw it out in the lawn. And I've got a couple of local robins that have learned that when I'm out digging around to follow me around, and they love picking up those grubs as soon as I throw them out for them. Then of course they come in and pick up the earthworms after I disappear for that. The other one that I'm hearing about are people are reporting about moles, and we're still suffering from the old ads that we heard on the radio that said, if you've got moles, you must have grubs and you need to apply a grub control. No, absolutely not. Remember that the number one food of moles is earthworms. And if you've got mole activity right now, it's probably because you have a really good soil and good earthworm populations. And we don't recommend controlling either one of those. Bottom line, the best mole controls still are trapping. And there's some pretty good videos on YouTube and fact sheets from your land-grant universities that talk about how to set those traps and be effective for mole control. So that's all I've got. Just wanted to mention those.
Dave, any update on cicadas?
We are not going to have the massive emergence of the cicada in Ohio. The closest you can go over to Indiana, it'll be on the western half of Indiana if you really want to see the massive emergence for those. But you can actually wait. We are going to have an emergence next year in the southern third of Ohio. So you could go down to the Hocking Hills next spring and experience periodical cicada emergence.
Does that mean you're going to be on TV cooking them again?
It could be.
All right. Thank you, folks. As we get closer and closer to the end of May, a reminder, we will have one more of these in 2 weeks' time. And then once we get into June, we'll be into the weekly updates. A couple of things to keep in your calendar. So the Ohio Lawn Care Association Field Day is on June 20th in Worcester. They also have an event June 27th up in Northwest Ohio at the Northwest Research Station as part of the ODA block grant looking at low input turf grasses. We also have our upcoming field days in Columbus, the second full week in August. I think that's the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So don't give me too much abuse if I'm out by a day on that, but that's the OTF field day, the Olka Columbus field day, and then a follow up on the ODA field day as well at the Columbus site. So with that, we'll wrap it up and we will see you all in 2 weeks' time.